We want to take you to Baltimore for the planned demolition of what is left of Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge. Engineers are prepared to set off controlled explosives to help remove a 600-ton steel span of the trapped container ship. They want to take it right off. The Dolly, of course, as many of you remember, lost power and crashed into the bridge back in March. 6 members of a roadwork crew that were on the bridge were killed in that initial collapse. Our ABC News senior national correspondent Terry Moran is joining us from the scene out there in Baltimore. Terry, thank you so much for being here with us. I know there's a lot of anticipation for what's about to happen. You have covered this since the very beginning. You even took a boat out there to see some of this wreckage. So how is this all going to play out here in the next few minutes?
Just a few seconds now, I think we'll hear a horn that will warn us it's about to happen. Hundreds of small, precision, explosive cutting devices have been put in strategic places on that massive piece of steel that is resting on the ship. They're going to blow it. It should, if all goes well, roll gently into the water. And then that ship, the Dolly, will essentially be free. And in the next couple of days, they will take it back into Baltimore for repairs. There are 21 crew members still on that ship. They maintain it. They're the best people that we are told to be on that ship because they're going to be in the bow at the opposite end of where the charges are occurring. But they have been maintaining the ship because it is essentially still floating in the river. It's tied down by various anchors. But we expect now, really any minute, we heard 5 o'clock, for those horns to go off, and then there will be rather loud explosions, a series of charges that will cut that giant tangled mess of steel trusses in such a way, kind of gently cut it so it'll fall into the water in pieces. They'll cut it into smaller pieces, put it on the barges they have for this whole length of the bridge. When I was here the day it happened and the day after and for a few days after that, there were massive pieces of steel, tangled steel, running the whole length across this river, across the water here, the Patapsco. There you go, huh?
Okay, so everyone that's watching, you just saw at least one of those charges go off, right? A huge plume of smoke. It was really loud. Terry Moran is out there talking about this with us and watching it live. So, Terry, from your perspective there, what were you seeing and hearing?
Well, it's spectacular. So those precision charges happened right after one after another. It sounded like one explosion, but there were essentially a bunch of explosions that, as you saw, very neatly sliced that massive piece of steel, and it tumbled gently into the river where now it can be removed. And what it did was free the ship. So that massive cargo ship can now be brought back and repaired, and the channel open for business. So far, the Army Corps of Engineers has opened a temporary channel that can take about 80% of the kinds of vessels that used Baltimore, including massive car carriers, automobile carriers. Most of imported automobiles come through Baltimore for this part of the country. That's crucial for the economy here. But they believe that they will get the entire 700-foot wide, 50-foot deep federal channel, they call it, open by the end of May. Baltimore will be open again, crucial for this community. But there's a lot of work to be done yet, obviously. There's tremendous amount of debris underwater, and then at some point, they're going to have to talk about tearing down the rest of the bridge and rebuilding it. But what you just saw was really a spectacular feat of precision demolition engineering, carried off, it seems, from here, exactly as planned.
It certainly did, Terry, and noting here that they say, you know, this is the industry standard in controlled demolition, that it breaks it into smaller pieces, essentially falls into the water. It's safer for everyone that is involved. But, Terry, you more than anyone have been out on a boat. You have been up close as anyone could be to this wreckage there in the aftermath. So now that you're sort of seeing the before and after here, can you give us a sense of what this is like? It also appears from our vantage point, Terry, that there might be 2 tugboats or something like that right behind the Dolly as well, as they obviously get ready to make some additional moves here.
That's right. So they've got the large cranes, floating cranes, to remove some of the metal and other debris, and they have the tugboats to eventually take it back into port. But it's amazing for me because getting up to it close right after it happened, before they were able even to recover the 6 men, the 6 construction workers who went down into the water when the bridge collapsed. There was so much wreckage, and getting up close to it, you felt the violence of that moment. It's so massive, and to see all of that gigantic amount of steel and concrete, the pillars that fell on the ship, just torn apart and really cutting through the ship, almost like cutting into a cake. That sense of the enormity of what happened there was very profound. And what I'm struck by now is the efficiency, the speed, and the care of this enormously complex operation that they've had to do to clear this river, clear the channel, and reopen Baltimore. There have been no injuries, which is an amazing thing since in the almost, 2 months since it happened. The amount of tension that was on all that steel that was above the water and below that could operate as kind of lethal springs if they were cut improperly. No one got hurt, and so far they have done everything that they planned to do ahead of schedule.
You're exactly right to point that out, how dangerous all of this was, not only now, but in the past weeks and months, as we had divers down there in the water as well, swimming and trying to navigate all that tangled steel. And now we're seeing the very beginning of the efforts here to remove the dolly. Also noting the FAA even put up a temporary flight restriction in that area, and we're flying a drone over the ship as all of this was happening. Terry, do we have any additional information here now as we take this first step on what is the latest and the planned cost here to rebuild this bridge, and how do they pay for that?
Well, I can answer the second question first. It is the determination of the community leaders here right up into the United States Congress that the ship's insurers are going to pay for this. The city of Baltimore has already sued the owner of the Dolly, that's the name of the ship, saying that the crew was informed and was aware of some kind of electrical problem before it left the docks. And that would suggest, at least it does to the city of Baltimore, that the fault is on the operators of the ship and perhaps the owners of the ship. That's where the money is, of course, and the insurers of the ship as well. And so officials are saying they're going to get the full cost of this repair, of clearing all the debris and clearing the channel, and of rebuilding the bridge from the insurance companies that insured this ship. We'll see how that goes. There's bound to be a lot of litigation. The timetable right now, first and most importantly, as I said, to get Baltimore open again, they think they'll do that by the end of May, and they've been ahead of schedule the whole time. The much bigger challenge is to rebuild this bridge, which was absolutely crucial for traffic and commerce in Baltimore, for people getting from one place to another. It used to take, 5 minutes to get from there to here. It's now about an hour, given traffic. So that's going to take a while. It will undoubtedly be a different design. You saw those steel trusses just fold when the dolly hit that pillar. When they built this bridge back in the 1970s, there were no ships that size, these giant container vessels. And so they'll have to think of a different design given the nature of modern commerce. But that's likely years away.
And there you see again, we're replaying the video for you of those planned charges that went off to remove the largest remaining span of the collapsed Francis Scott Key Bridge there in Baltimore, as it was sort of resting on the dolly as it has been since late March. Terry Moran, thank you so much for being out there with us, and we so appreciate your perspective and sharing this story with us since the day that it happened. Terry, thank you so much.